Yep. So again, this section is covering, any questions related to the skill exchange. Um, feel free to come off mute or drop any questions in the chat. Essentially, our skill exchange revolved around, how to prevent bot attacks, better methods of operations in your organization to try and mitigate some of that outcome, and then how to develop a playbook for when things go wrong. You know what to do immediately and have different, assigned tasks to different team members and what those responsibilities could be.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. I have a question, and the scope of it is the Adobe Commerce platform. Is it the
Yes.
right form? Yes, right?
Yes.
Okay, so bots crawling the website and taking sometimes the website down or making slowness is a common thing for most of my clients, I would say.
Yes.
I would like to hear from you, like, what is the recommended approach to block these? In the past, we used IPs. Now we use fingerprints, and we
Yeah.
block them on Fastly. But can you talk a little bit about it?
Yeah. So from my experience, and you're right. Like those are the things that we've used in the past. We actually just encountered an incident the other day where we identified the fingerprint and blocked it. Um, so really, a lot of our session had to do with proactive bot protection. Starting with preventing like malicious traffic from reaching the application. So we're routing, and I assume you're talking about the Adobe Commerce, cloud because you get your Fastly account with it, right? So,
Correct.
right. So routing all traffic through Fastly. We try to verify origin cloaking. Make sure your WAF is established and up to date. Established normal traffic baselines using New Relic and observations from Adobe Commerce. One thing that we have been focused on is monitoring request volume. This is exactly what happened just the other day. Uh, cache for hit, miss, and pass rates. Frequently targeted URLs is what we found some outliers out there that created like an infinite redirect loop that hadn't been cleaned up. That these bots were able to like take advantage of or user agents. And then again, like you mentioned before, like we block certain IP ranges, countries, of course. In our case, we have three different websites, all selling different products in the same Adobe Commerce environment, and some of them do business in Tokyo, so we can't just outright block that entire country. Like so we have to take into account for each business unit. And then, like you said before, so apply targeting rate limiting rules and challenges or blocking rules to high cost endpoints such as APIs, login, account creation, cart checkout. We always use Fastly's ACLs and the reCAPTCHA and bot management capabilities when possible. And this is something that has really played a big role currently is I would also recommend reviewing your cache and query parameters behaviors so attackers cannot generate like unlimited cache misses. Um, Rules should be tested and tuned carefully and ideally begin monitoring those rate limiting rules so legitimate customers and search engine crawlers are not blocked, because that's essentially what we were dealing with the other day is we were getting overwhelmed by Googlebot, right? So put in some rate limiting rules for that. But then also identifying like some malicious bots that were coming in. And, it's kind of really hard sometimes because you have to differentiate between, okay, you're getting hit by a lot of automated bot traffic, but we want to ensure that the good traffic is still, coming through. Is the good bot traffic being so aggressive? I'm not sure. So let's put in some rate limiting rules to try and prevent that. And then yeah, I hope that kind of answers your question.
Partially, I would say, because let's if you agree, let's split the topics, right? So, you mentioned rate limits for the website. Can we implement it using the out of the box features, the Fastly model?
Yeah, as far as I know, I don't know, Arushi, do you have something oh, is she here? I don't know if she's here. Um,
Yeah, I'm
she,
aware about the rate limits for the guest checkout endpoints or for the checkout endpoints that was created in 248. But for example, for the catalog, can I
Yeah.
create a rate limit for catalog endpoints?
I think so. It also depends on. Do you know if you're on the advanced version, or you're talking about just the out of the box? Uh,
Yeah. I was going to get there because I
okay.
heard from some Adobe guys last week that
Yep.
there's a new tool called Adobe Commerce Advanced Security that basically, if I'm right, we are going to move away from being reactive, and this
Right.
tool is proactive. So instead of receiving alerts, checking what is going on and try to block fingerprints or IPs or countries or whatever, this
Yeah.
will do it automatically for us. But for me, it's really a new thing. So can you talk more about this new tool, and if you have any experience with it, like what what worked for you, what you had to change, or what you had to handle manually, this kind of thing?
Yeah. So I mean, we had the exact same problem that you're talking about, right? Like a lot of like intense manual work and review. Like you said, the Adobe team has reached out to us previously because we've been having this issue for months on end, essentially. And it's like their Fastly's like advanced WAF security, and like you said, that a lot of it would be more automated, so you wouldn't have to take care of it yourself. I'm not entirely sure if there's like a cost associated with it. I know in some of the tickets that we got that one of the Adobe support technicians said they did enable it for us. So I don't know if that was like a stopgap measure that we would just have for a while, or if there is a cost associated with upgrading to it. That I don't know.
Yeah, there's a cost. I don't know the exact cost, but if anyone else is interested, you can reach to your Adobe CSM, and yes, there is
Yep.
a cost behind it.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. Like I wasn't sure if when they said that they enabled it, if they just did it like an emergency upsize or something like that. If it was just like they enabled it because we were having like such a pressure load on the system that it would help us and not have to do so much manual work.
Yeah, but once it was turned on for you, like, did it really solve the issue? Like, did it does it block the bad bots or so?
Yeah, I mean, when after it was enabled, like the pressure was relieved very, very quickly. And it also, the, the problem again, like not all these things like happen in a vacuum, because it never seems to just be like one source of entry where these agents, it just happens to be like, oh, it's just Anthropic or it's just a Google bot that's out of control. It happened to be like some cron jobs that were hung up. There's some other, data feeds like coming in that uh, had added some noise to the situation. So again, we always just go back to like examining New Relic and seeing, like one of the things that happened to us was that a large amount of our requests were coming from our managed service provider for our IT organization, and we didn't know why they had hit our site over like 3,400 or it was like 34 million times in 24 hours, and it was something like on their side. So again, it added a whole bunch of noise to it that didn't have anything to do with like regular bot traffic, but it was all happening at the same time. But I hope to loop up and answer your question that yes, once it was enabled, it did relieve pressure from the system, and I would assume that it was just enabled for a while and then they disable it again because, like you said, you have to talk to your account representative about the pricing on the model.
Yep. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so I had some more notes here. Um, yeah, because one thing you might like, so a ticket that we wrote up the other day was asking the Adobe support staff, like, could you please confirm the Fastly WAF is active in enforcing the current managed policy on our production environment? Um, Also confirm whether the Adobe Commerce Advanced Security is licensed and enabled, including the bot management and advanced rate limiting tools. That also, I think, I don't know if you mentioned the layer 7 DOS protection. and confirm that all configured domains are routed through Fastly, and the origin is cloaked from the direct public access point. Um, Again, I think that's the way that we're all moving. I mean, for our organization, like this has caused such disruption to the business and impact on revenue that I would imagine that the cost is going to be well worth like the amount of time that we have to spend into it, investigating it and like manually. And you just don't want to be faced with these things every day and impact customer experience and revenue.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like, for example, the carding attack, that is a known
Yeah,
issue. Magento since to free something, and we still struggle with that. Like the rate limit tool that was implemented, like yeah, we are able to reduce the noise, but the noise will be there, right? So yeah. And
yeah, that
here in
was.
my experience, we use it to work with data DOM
Uh,
on top of what we have to block. But this advanced security tool sounds promising to me. So
Yeah, and it also, from my experience, like we've had many card attacks over the years, and of course we have recaptcha in place and everything like that. But it actually took us moving to a different credit card processor where we didn't have to pay like an outside external source like Signify or something like that for that extra layer of like credit card protection. So our credit card processor was also the merchant and the gateway and the security protocols for it too. And so once we were able to move it to them, they were very easily allowed to, identify when a carding attack was going on, being able to, make us aware of the situation and also shut it down so we weren't getting charged, like 5 cents for every single one of them or whatever, which would count to like a $4,000 bill when our other credit card merchant like basically didn't do anything to help us. So I think that's also something to consider that on that side of it, if you to make sure you have a good partner in your credit card operator. All right, Arushi's here now. I'm sorry I had trouble getting into the chat, but yeah, I didn't know. I think there's some questions uh, for you that were a bit more technical.
I don't see any questions so far in the chat.
Let's see, we can put
Yeah,
them in
okay.
the. I think it was these two.
Yeah. How to protect REST API? So REST API we can protect using the most best way is using date limit only, and then other things also we can try. But rate limit mostly works well. Like whatever API we are getting more hits. We can try whether it's coming from particular IP or not, and then accordingly we can try to add rate limit. Otherwise, mm, so like yeah, we can use like in Magento configuration if we see. There is no specific rate limit we can apply, but if we use vsale script, then for a particular URL we can provide whatever limits we want. So it depending on the REST API, like order API, checkout API, whatever is getting more hits, we can accordingly add the count like limit, and we can try analyzing from New Relic basically, like and try to figure out the pattern of bots. For example, IP we can consider, fingerprint we can consider, and there are several other parameters that we can use uh, for adding the rate limits for any particular API. Yeah, that's it majorly actually. And like this is the one thing. And is there any other question, please?
This one came in. Here.
This is basically not a question actually. Yeah, fastly whitelists don't work in case of REST API hits because like Fastly API works when we know very well the IPs for which we need to allow the REST API, but in Magento it don't work like that. From wherever customer will try to access our environment, from their IP will be considered. So we can't add any particular whitelist IP only on which only REST API should work. REST API has to work uh, throughout the regions wherever our website is accessible.
Oh, here's another good one. So
Yeah.
yeah, and so we're on a pass platform, so I'm not sure how different this is.
Yeah, Rupak, so same for me. Actually, I'm also on past platform and I don't know, but I believe like whatever advanced security feature which Adobe Commerce had recently released in before past 2 years, uh, sorry, past 2 months, that should be available in SaaS. And as per my understanding, that is a sort of add-on for PaaS. I'm not sure about SaaS, but most of the things are similar, except that few of the configurations we can handle on our own. Like that is what overall is there. I can't comment on this much because I don't want to get confused since I am also not an expertise in that.
And then
Yeah, so for this also, Subhan, I believe I need to dig dive a bit. We are generally using authorization token only. Kiss, do you have any idea on this particular thing?
no, I don't. S- No, I don't. I'd have to get with my
Yeah,
team on that.
okay. Sorry, we don't have any answer for now, Subhan.
Yeah, be glad to get back to you. Yeah,
Yeah,
or the product team would be, very helpful in using it.
like in terms of API, I believe we can do that. Like since the URL is a bit different
Yeah,
uh, for guest users and login, so we can easily differentiate and apply rate limits accordingly. And even admin API users means something which is routing through admin, I believe. So that also then we can do. Is that correct? Like, do you mean that only?
yeah. So setting rate limiting rules on which URLs or log in, check out, uh, different things like that. I mean, that's what we have done here.
Yeah.
Logged in, not logged in.
So, logged in and not logged in, like I believe guest, okay, customer which is logged in and which is not logged in. Like, I would like to understand the context why you are trying to get for a customer which is logged in and not logged in. Why you want to understand that? Is there any particular scenario? because rate limit is applied on the URL and it don't consider any other scenario. Uh, it can consider any query string as well, but it don't apply to any other condition or parameter. It don't consider. I'm really not sure about this.
I mean, I know for us, like when we differentiate between a guest customer or a logged in customer, um, it triggers like a lot of different um, processes to happen when it's hitting the login URL over and over and over and over again. Um, so that's the way that we differentiate between both of them. Are they logged? Are they trying to go to the logged in URL, or are they just trying to pass through as a regular guest customer and get the checkout? And is there anything interfering there? Like any kind of like malicious bot traffic trying to overload the website, like just trying to check out, add to cart, and go over and over and over and over again. The login potential, triggers a lot of different other resources within our system, customer groups, and
Uh, like they, Suman, do you mean there is a use case to hit API with logged in and not logged in? Or we are just talking in terms of APIs only? Because with APIs, um, generally, for example, if we are allowing guest checkout, that is different thing. If we are allowing registered checkout, that is different thing. So, what sort of API can you please elaborate? Then might be I can help in that.
so is that what you interpret as, Rishi? Because we have a different rate limiting set to the URL for logged in users.
Mhm. So we are reading data from a third party services. That means service is known to us, okay, and it is being authenticated that in Magento. Once it's authenticated, it needs to be protected with rate limit. So we are trying to prevent the number of hits from that particular third party to our Magento. If that is correct, then we can use the IP-based restrictions, right? Whatever third party we must be using, we can ask them for the IP. Like for example, like we uses uh, ERPs and PIM and those connections. That time we can ask them, and we can use that thing to handle less number of requests like that.
Yeah, I was just wondering what 2.4.8. Okay. Yeah. Then that you shouldn't have should work.
Does that sound good to you, Suman?
Yeah, so essentially you need to give extra rate limiting rules to logged in users. So have you ever had some catastrophic failures because of what's happening right now? Well, in any case, so really every organization is a bit different, but one of the main points that I've learned over all this is just having like an operational playbook of how to deal with these kinds of incidences. Again, I don't know how big everyone's team is. I don't know if they have an internal development team and an external development team. I don't know how many people you have in your organizations that are assigned to these kind of roles to help collect evidence to be able to report back to Adobe support. But that's been one of the things that I've learned is that every time these things have happened, we've learned from it and updated our playbook that, okay, we've dealt with a situation like this before, and so this is how we're going to respond to it. And then that playbook is like a living, breathing document for our team here and internally and externally that still continues to get updated uh, because we just can't be in a situation where no one really knows what to do, no one understands what their responsibility is, and we all have to have really great internal and external communication. And again, Adobe's support team has been very, very helpful. Going through what we've been going through right now to be able to identify, possible, targets that are coming in and breaching the system and overwhelming everything. And they've been very responsive and helpful in every case. And I'll tell you, just as soon as the other day, our websites were taken down for about 3 hours because we were trying to figure out what exactly was happening. Was it a cron health issue? There seemed to be a bot attack involved. There seemed to be some 404 redirects that were stuck that were being latched onto and overloading the system, creating like an infinite loop. So really, it came down to like 6 different issues all happening at the same time, and we just had to solve one by one until the issue was resolved. But then, uh, so Authenticate Clavu, yeah, so it's running on a cron. So Arushi, do you have any input on that?
No.
So for us, we have a different integration for one of our stores that runs on cron that is extremely aggressive. And one of the things that we've noticed is like that development team that created that integration, and it's not an app builder, unfortunately, which is what we wanted to put it in. And we're working towards that. Is that that cron has gotten worse and worse and worse. Like it used to get the query could take an hour. Well, yesterday it was running and stuck and took about 3 hours for it to finish. So we have to go back to that development team and present them with the evidence of what we found, and they need to optimize it for our environment. Again, to me, the ultimate solution is getting that put out an app builder for that integration, so it won't affect the direct Magento core code as it is now. So that's one of the things I tried to say in the beginning, that as not only just traffic and using New Relic and everything, but making sure your cron health is in good operating condition, because it's one of those things that will just sneak up on you, and then all of a sudden you have a massive problem. But it might not be your internal team. It could be whatever integration that you have running. But again, I would highly suggest anyone moving forward with any kind of integration like that, try their best to take use app builder, because one of our companies does have an integration through app builder to their ERP system, and the other two do not. Well, when the one with app builder encountered an issue, it they were able to just stop it. um, Customer journey was not affected, people were still able to check out, regular normal flow. And then once we were able to mitigate the issue, turn it back on, and then all the orders started flowing back over to the ERP system, and no one really knew the difference. So that is highly recommended. Hmm. So I know from my experience, like I was talking about our different credit card processors that we had, that they were able to stop that. Now it depends. Like, are you doing just a straight pre-authorization? What are you pre-authorizing for? Are you charging at the time of checkout? For us, we're doing a small pre-authorization of only like 5 cents. So if we have to reauthorize the card again, it isn't a problem. The former credit card processor we had was charging all the money up front. So it would pre-auth the card for the whole order, say it's $500 or whatever. Pre-auth would stay on the card for 4 to 7 days and then fall off. And then when we want to go ship the item, once it's manifested and shipped, then we would hit the card again. The reason that we would do that is because we wanted to make sure the funds were available. Because in the other case, when we're pre-authorizing the card for only a small amount, just to make sure the card is actually valid, it's entirely possible that once the shipment gets back to the shipping station and they try to run it and authorize the card, that the card's invalid, it's expired, there's not enough funds left on the card, and then we have to stop the shipment, put the package aside, and then contact the customer and get a new form of payment, or have them update their bank. Um, so that's just been my experience with it. It depends on your credit card merchant. I don't know if you're which one you're using, um, but uh, usually if you just pre-auth the card, then you're not going to have to keep retrying it again. But I understand if you're not at Stripe. Okay, see, we don't use them, um, and I'm not very familiar with how they do it. Do you know if you're pre-authorizing for the whole amount? Okay. And what's your average order value? Oh, okay. Well, ours is like $500. So, um, yeah, but I can still see the issue. I don't know. I mean, in my opinion, every time we've had something like that happen, we've had to work with the credit card merchant to make sure that we can safely uh, you know retry the payment method without charging them twice. Now, I will say in our previous experience with other credit card merchants, that did happen. So we not only that, but if a customer called in or placed an order online, or placed an order online first, like a $500 value, we authorized the card for $500, and then they called back later that day and wanted to add more, items to their order, and we did that, then it would authorize the card again for the initial 500 plus what they've added to the order. So that to me always seems like an issue that you need to work with your credit card merchant on to make sure that it's happening the way you want it to. I don't know if that's available um, with them. Like we've gone through several credit card merchants just to make sure that we don't have these kind of issues. All right, Gabby, was there any other questions from? Oh, okay. No, I don't think there is.
Yeah, I also don't think there is any other way, means out of the box way.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it really depends on your use case for your business organization and what credit card merchant that you're using. But your solution, adding another customization is exactly what we have to end up doing sometimes, is what we had to do in the past until we decided to move on to a different credit card merchant. Um, but yeah, out of the box functionality, I just don't think there is.
Also, just to add, like for the previous question, I don't think there is a direct way for identifying logged in and not logged in. But I'll make sure that we check with the product team regarding that, and we can provide a answer for you.
Okay, well, thank you all for your time today. I hope we were somewhat helpful. Again, I know the playbook and everything that we went over, depending on what your organizational needs are, is something I definitely recommend everyone get started on with their teams, because it's not. I mean, you're asking very specific questions about credit card and different things like that, which was built into part of the things that we had to go through, because we needed a solution to it. But our my takeaway from it was just making sure that operationally within your organization, everyone had a place where they knew what to do, and how to keep advancing the ball forward, and making sure that the next time an incident like this happened, you knew exactly what to do, who to contact, and if it was a similar incident than you had previously, you knew what questions to ask to Adobe support to get clarity on it quicker. I always like to say that Adobe support is there to help you, and you're also there to help them. Just giving them like a clear, ticket, like one thing at a time, just one, incident to need to be responded to, really helps them focus as well, because they know what team members and what pods to disseminate that information to, so they can get you back the question or the answer to the question as quickly as possible. It really becomes a big mix up when you start asking 4 or 5 things at the same time. In my experience, it's just one question per ticket. If you have to open up another ticket, reference that ticket to the other one, because they're related, and it really helps the Adobe support team work it out quickly. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.